self-proclaimed empath. Actually, as a therapist, I'm kind of a professional empath. It's a really big part of my job. And me, an empath, am already sensing some reactions from the audience. Some of you rolled your eyes. I saw some raised brows. It's okay, you're not in trouble. Because I think most of you might just be wondering, what does that word even mean? It's a word we've been hearing a lot more recently. In conversations, in social media, maybe even in a couple of outdated memes, guilty. But what does it really mean to be an empath? Is it something that we're born with? Or something that we learn how to do? Or maybe you need a degree in to understand? I think the answer lies in both our biology and our psychology. So let me take us back to the basics for a moment. As a PhD student, this is actually the perfect opportunity for me to play professor and rehearse a quick little history lesson with you all, so bear with me. The word empathy comes from two Greek roots, meaning in, and pathos, meaning feeling. So empathy is being in someone else's feelings, or in better words, it's the act of immersing yourself in someone else's emotional state to truly try to understand what they're going through. Self-explanatory, right? But did you know that the word empathy as a researchable, observable concept wasn't even formally defined until after World War II? In the aftermath of a major global traumatic experience, researchers started to take interest in not just how humans think, but in how we connect and interact with each other. Because even though the word itself is relatively new, the concept of empathy, or the experience of empathy, is as old as humanity itself. The essence of empathy has always been rooted in social connection and survival. Studies from evolutionary biologists suggest that empathy was at our core, in our ability to build societies, form groups, and create those bonds necessary for survival in some pretty unpredictable environments. If our ancestors didn't understand each other, weren't connected to one another, they wouldn't have gotten through the day. In fact, anthropologists have found Neanderthal remains with clear signs of injuries that have healed over time, proof that even back then, people looked out for one another. I mean, imagine living in a time where literally every day was a battle for survival. If someone in your group got injured or sick, easiest thing could have been to just leave them behind, save yourself. But they didn't think that way. They fed them, protected them, healed them. That's not just kindness. That's survival through connection, through community. Empathy, even back then, wasn't just about being nice to one another. It was an evolutionary advantage, and it continues to be today. Remember the chaos and isolation of the COVID-19 pandemic. Times were unprecedented and terrifying, and yet I watched so many communities come together to adapt, to innovate, and support each other in ways I never could have imagined. So all of that must mean that empathy is something we're born with, right? Genetically ready to use right out of the gate. Not exactly. I like to think of empathy as a muscle, one that requires regular support and exercise. And just like any other muscle, we learn to grow and develop our sense of empathy from a pretty young age. As children, we look to our peers, our classmates, our friends, but we also look to the guidance of the adults in our lives to really understand what it meant to be empathetic. Remember in preschool when your teacher used to say, treat others the way you want to be treated? Or when they would remind you to put yourself in someone else's shoes. These early lessons weren't just about being kind to each other in the classroom or earning that gold star on your sticker chart because you were extra good that week. These were our first real exercises in empathy. And so even though we might be biologically wired to be empathetic, it's still something that we have to work at and practice a little bit. But in today's world, it's becoming as challenging as ever to practice empathy with each other. Studies from Dr. Sarah Conrath, a researcher in altruism and parasocial behaviors, found that empathy is actually on the decline, especially in young adults today. And if you don't believe me, easiest way to prove this and witness this in action is when you go to the comment section of social media platforms like TikTok. I'm positive almost everyone in this room has seen those comments. The ones passing judgment, the ones making assumptions, maybe even being a little hateful and rude. Maybe some of you in this room have been the ones to hit post on those comments. It's funny, social media was supposed to bring us together, right? Make it easier to connect with one another. Ironically, having the screen in between us only seems to have made it easier to detach from the people we're trying to communicate with, to the point where we might not even be registering that there is a real live human being on the other side of the screen. A real live human being with their own thoughts and feelings. Crazy concept, right? You would think that with the invention of the internet, this crazy intricate platform meant to keep us informed, expose us to new ideas, and connect us with people halfway across the world would actually make us more curious, more open and accepting to new ideas. And yet, we're all using the algorithm to build a wall that reinforces what we already know and only what we want to know, until we're left with a flat, two-dimensional, black and white perspective of the world. That sounds bleak, right? That does not sound too good. It kind of makes it sound like we all must hate each other. No, it's not because we hate each other. It's not because we don't care about each other. It's not even because we don't know how to care about each other. It's because we are all so tired and overwhelmed with burnout, financial struggles, societal pressures, and a culture that is increasingly emphasizing the idea that it's not my problem is an appropriate response to most situations. It's no wonder we don't have space for each other. We don't even have space for ourselves. I think that's why I've been hearing this phrase a lot more lately. You don't owe anyone anything. Some of you may have seen this, heard this, maybe even said it yourselves with good reason. If you only have so much time and energy left at the end of the day, why should you owe that to anyone other than yourself? I don't owe that person a text back. I'm busy and they won't even notice. I don't owe that person my presence at their event. I've got things to do, I'm not in the mood, and they won't even miss me. I don't owe that person my shoulder to cry on. We all have things to cry about these days. Go find another shoulder. Showing up for others is hard. I get it. Especially when your favorite influencers are telling you to forget your friends, hit purchase on my promo link, and this product, I swear it'll fix everything. Maybe putting in your credit card information is easier than coordinating everybody's schedules and actually getting that hangout set up. Maybe hitting not interested on a post that you disagree with is easier than having the real life argument and resolving it. Why should you care when the internet and social media are saying you don't need anyone else, you just need us? I'll tell you why you should care. I think our ancestors were onto something. And social connection and empathy were evolutionary advantages for very good reasons. So if we're all going to be in survival mode anyway, I think empathy might just be our best bet in getting through this in one piece together. In a world where we're still struggling to conceptualize differences, empathy might just be the key, the antidote to conflict. It helps us understand each other in ways that creates these really magical things like compassion and cooperation. Dr. Helen Rice, a psychiatrist and researcher, developed this thing called the empathy effect, and I hope you all will Google this later because it's really cool. but it basically theorizes just how life-changing and transformative empathy can be for our society that is so used to being individualistic and lonely. Dr. Rice even points out that empathy can boost our overall sense of well-being to the point where we might be able to build stronger relationships, reduce our stress levels, and increase our overall sense of happiness. I don't know about all of you, but that sounds amazing, especially right now. It turns out empathy isn't just for the people we're trying to be empathetic towards, it's good for us too. In fact, empathy might just be our first step in addressing some of the pressures we've been facing. It's the bridge that connects our personal experiences of stress to the collective understanding that we're all kind of going through it right now. It's rough out here. And the more we practice empathy, the more we open the door to understanding. And with understanding comes more of those magical things like growth, healing, and unity. Instead of seeing each other as opponents in a divided world, we might just start to see each other as allies, as partners in a shared human experience. We might just get that village back. But just to be clear, as amazing as empathy sounds, it only works if you do it right. So this part is very important. Neuroscientist Dr. Jean Dessetti points out that empathy isn't just about feeling someone else's emotions. It's about understanding why they feel the way that they do. This part is key. You don't have to agree with someone to be empathetic towards them, but you do have a responsibility to try to understand what's going on in their world that makes it so they feel this way. So now we know how amazing empathy can be, right? And how we can actually engage in it, but what do we do with this information? What now? Well, remember when I said empathy is like a muscle, one that requires regular support and exercise? I have a bit of a workout for you all to try. So one really good way of practicing empathy is by exposing yourself to differences. And one really easy and accessible way to do that is by consuming fiction. Fiction is a powerful tool when it comes to practicing your empathy muscle. Dr. Keith Oatley, a cognitive psychologist and novelist, recognized that consuming fiction allows you to step into the shoes of the characters in the stories you're consuming so that you see the world from their point of view. Remember the last movie you watched that made you cry? Or the last book you read where the plot twist really shocked you? How you had to have understood the character's background, their desires, their motivations, their perspectives, in order to feel something for them in that moment. Now, I'm not saying that your 20-step self-help book can't give you that perspective, but consuming fiction might just allow us to revisit our childhoods, to a time when treat others the way you want to be treated and put yourself in someone else's shoes actually held more meaning, felt doable. Now, your homework might just be to rewatch that movie that made you cry, or reread that book that shocked you, although you know the plot twist, so maybe not. But for right now, I want you all to try something with me. Take a moment and think about yourself sitting in this room. Maybe you're completely tuned in, ready for my next sentence. Maybe your mind is wandering. You're already thinking about what's for dinner tonight. Maybe something I said challenged you, went against something that you believe in. Or maybe something I said reassured you and confirmed what you already knew. Or maybe you're just ready to go home, and that's okay. But now I'd like for you to shift your perspective to the person sitting next to you. What might be going on in their minds? Are they engaged? Maybe they're confused? Are they bored? Or maybe they're inspired? Do they see the world the same way that you do? Or might they be carrying something that you can't even begin to imagine? We live in a world where as children, we're told to put ourselves in other people's shoes, but as we get older, we're pushed to and sometimes rewarded for judging the type of shoes they're wearing. What if instead of the judgment, the assumptions, the hate, we actually stop to ask ourselves, why? What if we sought to understand what is going on in that person's world that makes it so they're wearing that specific pair of shoes? Now, I know all of you have 30 seconds in your day to ask yourself these questions. And after the time that we've spent here today, there's no excuse. Empathy is a responsibility. And so you don't need a PhD in psychology to be empathetic. You just have to be willing to see beyond yourselves. And the fact that all of you are sitting here today listening to me talk, and you're eagerly awaiting my fellow speakers who are ready to say their piece, tells me you're already doing it. You're here. So I have a teeny tiny piece of homework for you all. I challenge you all to find someone this week and have a conversation with them where your only intention is to listen. Not to respond, not to argue, not to get your point across, but to truly just listen and hear what they're trying to tell you. Because the moment we stop stepping into each other's shoes is the moment we stop taking steps forward together as a community. That's not really something we can afford right now. So I want all of you to put on your neighbor's shoes, because we're all starting an empathy revolution. Thank you.